In our podcast, Vision for Global Village, we are inviting today Dr. Matthew Cappiello. He is a physician and assistant professor. He is also the former delegate of the California Democratic Party. So, Matthew, how are you?
Hi, how's it going? Welcome from California.
Wonderful, wonderful. Matthew, tell me, so we are discussing today about Zoran Mamdani's meteoric rise in leadership and how it is going to affect or influence American politics. So, Matthew, what do you think that is the reason behind or factors behind Zoran's rise in leadership? He won the mayoral contest, the primary mayoral contest in June. And few months before that, nobody knew his name, but within few months, he gained so much trust and confidence that he got huge victory in the mayoral contest. And that is an amazing and unparalleled event, I would say. But so I'm asking, like what could be the reason? I mean, the essence of my question is that I see that one is his charismatic character, his courage, and his ability to stand up to the bullies. And the other is a very dark context he is emerging into. And the dark context is a political stagnation in America, dysfunctional democracy, and economy that has extreme disparity between the rich and the poor. So what is your take on it?
Well, I think that Zoran represented a tipping point of ordinary Americans and ordinary New Yorkers not willing to put up with the wealth gap that's glaringly apparent in Manhattan and other parts of the Big Apple nowadays. A lot of us who are like Gen Xers, early millennials, remember New York from like the 1970s or 1980s punk rock days when you could kind of move there with a satchel on your back and find a way to become an icon in America by just paying for a $400 a month apartment. We remember New York in sort of a nostalgic view, but the honest truth is that a lot of people in New York are finding it increasingly hard to survive. Rent control is increasingly non-existent. The price of goods are going up. The price of essential civil and municipal services are increasingly difficult for poor and immigrant families to afford New York City. And what happens in New York is a microcosm of the United States, right? You know, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere in America. And similarly, what's going on wrong in New York is what's going on in the rest of the United States. So I think Zoran represented kind of an increasing inability of ordinary New Yorkers to tolerate the financial status quo.
He is also amazingly connecting, creating a broader coalition of different groups, working class, also special interest groups. They have been victimized, and he has been able to bring all these different kinds of groups, LGBT and other groups into the umbrella, making an umbrella. And is this amazing ability. So what do you think is behind that? I mean, there are a lot of charismatic leaders who came in the past, but they could not create such an impact in such a short period of time. Is this because that New York has a whole bunch of problems and New York is difficult to manage, and then there are 11,000 homeless for the 8 or 9 years. It is an international city. It is the financial center of the world. It is also the hub of many predatory forces in the world. And so
Well,
this city is unique.
well,
But
also it's
how did he gain the trust and confidence of the people coming?
well, you know, like I am fully from Los Angeles, so I don't mean to try to hype New York, but New York's also one of the coolest cities in the world. It has one of the most vibrant and diverse immigrant populations, including not just recent immigrants, but first generation immigrants, people of mixed ethnicity, mixed faith. It's a real American melting pot or a hub for a lot of interesting things to happen. Um, uh, and Zohran, in a way, is kind of a child of that melting pot. He's, you know, we don't need to, we don't need to, we don't need to be his hype man on this podcast show, but you know, he is a mixed nationality, um, West meets East, first
Mm.
generation immigrant who uh, grew up in the densest, uh, I believe, densest part of the world for ethnic diversity. I mean, if you go down Flushing, Queens, it's a Venezuelan restaurant, an Afghan restaurant, a Mexican restaurant, a Senegalese restaurant, all in the span of 1 or 2 blocks. So Zohran is uh, very much a flag flying supporter of that community, and that is what a lot of people view New York as. I mean, other people might look at New York as the Wall Street Bull, but a lot of people see New York as a global hub for
Yes.
the entry
Mm.
point to the American dream. And so I think that's maybe why he's kind of captured the public's attention.
But New York is also contains largest, except Israel, largest Jewish population. And 20% of the Jewish population also voted for him. So how did he earn the confidence at the same time? How, yeah, I mean, don't you think that he's also facing a lot of smear campaign and black labeling against him about anti-Semitism and all these things that are coming?
Well, again, that's part of what makes New York great is that it helps to dispel stereotypes and deconstruct, you know, these tropes that we have about different ethnic groups. I mean, Jewish Americans are themselves a very vibrant and interesting ethnic group. Not all of them are just pro-Zionist lemmings on a treadmill. They are some of the most intellectually powerful, financially successful people in all major industries of the United States, and they're not necessarily going to support Andrew Cuomo, a serial sex predator and a representative for the special interests in New York City finance. They're not necessarily going to support that. That's not necessarily the America that they want. Some of them might want that, but certainly not all of them do. And I mean, you know, God bless Brad Lander for getting up with Zohran and shaking hands with him. That was maybe one of the best Middle East peace photo ops that we've had in the last decade or so. So yeah, I don't think that Jewish Americans are a uniform voting bloc in any
But
sense.
but don't you think that he's staying above the fray of smear campaign and mudslinging and always coming to the point that he wants to make New York affordable for everybody, wants to make New York a great city or better city for everybody. They're focusing on the point, focusing on the issue, and not on getting caught in the smear campaign. That also impresses a lot of people, don't you think?
What's the thing that Michelle Obama said? When they go low, we go high. And of course, that ended up being used to promote neoliberal Obama politics. But I think when Zoran uses that, he actually means it. Um, Look, it's really important in politics to be able to take really complicated ideas and distill them in a way that a 12-year-old can understand them. And I think Zohran's genuinely able to do that. I mean, when you see him on MSNBC talking about how he's going to fund free buses for all New Yorkers, and he's able to pull out his accounting spreadsheet
And
describe it
childcare.
in a way that that anybody in 10 seconds can understand on a YouTube clip. That is genuine political skill, and that and he really does have a bright political future ahead of him. He is a talented public speaker. So and also the a lot of the main progressive ideals or points are positive points as well. I mean, they always smear progressives as bureaucrats that just want to make more rules for everyone. But actually, like, a lot of progressive points are things that bring utilitarian greatest good to the greatest number. Everybody jokes about how you'll see these scare tactics, like things that Zohran wants to do on Fox News, and then you look at all the bullet points and you're like, well, that stuff all sounds cool to me. I mean, that's because a lot of the progressive platform is in fact a positive platform. It's a platform that is optimistic and aims high.
So, so he is becoming a phenomenal figure, all that. Having said that, he's also creating his battleground with formidable forces. Like quite a few billionaires say that they are going to spend as much money as needed to defeat him. And then the Republican Party is up in arms against him. And then AIPAC and pro-Israeli groups, new conservatives, all are working behind the scene, up front, against him all the time, using media and smear campaigning and pointing out each and every flaws and everything, magnifying it, and also giving false labeling and all that. So do you think he can win in November in the final election, the mayoral contest, that he has
Well,
created so many enemies, the big,
well,
powerful enemies?
he's now the Democratic candidate in one of the most democratic cities in the country. So yes, I think he will win, God willing.
He
But
will win?
but you bring up a good point, which is that just because you win the battle doesn't mean you win the war. And one of the main issues that Zohran is speaking to is the increasing merger and acquisition and elite capture of America. And that's a much bigger problem. And that's a much bigger uphill battle. And that's going to require a lot more people to fix. There will be some amount of erosion and creep and exhaustion that will set in by being a mayor that's beset by every Wall Street special interest in the state. Additionally, Zohran might have snuck in, partly because New York is such a interesting and smart place, but I think there's going to be a institutional goal now to try to prevent little Zohrans from replicating his success in the heartland of America or in other big cities. And every city is different as well. What Zohran did isn't necessarily going to work in Houston,
One
isn't
thing.
necessarily going to work in Chicago. So yeah, fighting financial special interests in municipal governments is hard. It's hard, and it's going to need a movement.
But he's intentionally, like, what I'm thinking is Obama never challenged billionaires and elites so much. And he actually took billionaires' money in the campaign, but Zoran has not. And Obama was not so straightforward and so, really threatening the elite establishment and saying that I'm going to tax you when I come to power. But Mamdani is saying clearly that he's going to tax corporations, he's going to tax billionaires, and he's going to fight for the working class, he's going to fight for the unprivileged class, disadvantaged class, and different groups who are suffering and victimized. He's openly saying that. So don't you think he's creating his own battle very difficult and unwinnable? Because we have seen what money can do in American election. That is my concern.
Well,
Why he
I think a lot of people are making Obama analogies, kind of for like racial or ethnic reasons, and I think Zoran and Zoran's family and Zoran's politics are kind of cut from a different intellectual cloth than the kind of Obama like work from the inside kind of like you got to fix change from the inside kind of mentality. And we all saw how that worked in the financial crisis of 2008 when they just ended up bailing out Wall Street to prevent the whole country from collapsing. We saw that mode of thinking kind of ended up immiserating lots of America. But I don't think there's a lot of analogies between that and Zoran's uh, policies, which are heavily rooted in democratic socialism, which is part of the Democratic Socialist of America movement that has captured quite a few seats on the New York City Council. Um, I don't know if Obama's kind of like mixed Hawaii, Kenya upbringing is all that analogous to I mean, it might sound like it on paper, but I don't know if it's all that analogous to Zohran's family, including his dad, who has written some of the premier texts written in the 20th century about Islamophobia and about decolonialism.
No,
Uh,
my point is that being a Muslim, as he is, he's bringing a difficult situation. He's creating a difficult situation. I mean, Muslims are not easily, they are not electable easily. I mean, there are few, uh, but compared to the the American politics, Muslims are labeled and all that. On top of that, he is challenging the formidable forces. I mean, like AIPAC and pro-Israeli groups and other new conservatives and all these groups. And I think that this combined all these things that he is creating an insurmountable battle or insurmountable roadblock for before him. And I don't know whether that is a good tactics or bad tactics. Obama later on actually proved to be a hypocrite to many people, and his leadership is not appreciated. Maybe Mamdani, if he wins and he can deliver, maybe he will say or can demonstrate that he has been courageous, he has been truthful, and throughout his political career. So that might be a plus thing, that might be a negative thing. I don't know.
Well, I see what you're saying, that there's a significant risk of selling out whenever you're coming from an underdog perspective. You worry that the pressures, uh, I mean, just basic voting block, swing district pressures, related to, you know, the inside gears of his campaign might lead him to pull a few moves that kind of betray what he really thinks in his heart. I mean, you know, we all know that globalized the Intifada tagline, for instance, was total BS, and the fact that he and you know, I was a little bit annoyed that he felt the need to kind of walk
Yeah,
away
but
from that
he
because he
has
had never really said that in the
repeatedly
first
said,
place.
apologized for that and all that, and he corrected. But anyway, most important question I'm coming to is that suppose he's defeated in November election. Do you think that his leadership or what he has already demonstrated would be a catalyst for change in the rest of America and young
Well,
generation?
that's what I'm hoping. You know, I mean, I think if you have the Democratic nomination in New York City, you're pretty much going to win this, no questions asked. I mean, they might do a few surprises at the last minute, but I'm not that worried about Zoran. I have more questions like, how are you going to be able to replicate this in, you know, St. Louis, Missouri, or Arizona, or suburban, you know, sides of Austin, right next to Dan Crenshaw's district. Like, how are you going to be able to replicate a progressive winning campaign in places where you don't have you know, a million refugees who are going to vote for you? You know, that is my question, and I think it's doable. And I actually think that this could be the crest of a very interesting wave of new politicians, younger politicians, people that can throw out the old guard. But I think it's going to be kind of, I think for him to uh, I think for his success to be replicated elsewhere, I think it's going to have to be like I'm sorry to use a Marvel analogy, but like the Avengers. You're going to have people with different personalities, different walks of life, different colors, different creeds. You're going to have a lot of different people in different locations finding a way to make progressive values win.
But in essence, isn't it coming to this point that it is big money versus the people, collective will of the people? And as he said, like the answer to organized money is organizing people. And so do you think that crucial idea is going to inspire, motivate, and become a compelling force for the young generation leaders or would-be leaders or politicians who would be coming?
Yeah, because he won.
Politically.
Yeah, because he beat the casino. Yeah, I think that neighborhood candidates representing progressive values actually can win over the people that they fly in from Washington, D.C. I mean, I've personally seen in local politics local candidates who I think resonated far more with ordinary voters just get steamrolled by these candidates, often well-intentioned, who were flown in by party leaders, you know, to immediately become the bobblehead, you know, congressional candidate for the district. And then those candidates get clobbered because ordinary people don't like them because they're not from their city, they're not from their town. They sound like they're just reciting, you know, bullet points on a piece of paper. And yeah, I think one cool part about Zohran is he represents, you know, tearing up that playbook and doing something different. And I mean, he is very much a New Yorker. Just watching those TikTok videos, like he very much knows that city inside and out. So, and I think maybe, you know, the approach saying like I'm a local might get us more wins in November.
So you think that his style and his conviction and leadership is, whether he wins or not, can actually break the the ice of fear mongering and with the big money, the elites and all that, and leaders, a young generation politicians coming and say, no, we will not accept corporate money. Do you think that is going to be the scenario nationwide? Or do you think that the young people still will be afraid of big money?
I think what happened in Gaza recently was a very emperor has no clothes moment. Um, we're kind of seeing the Wizard of Oz curtain being pulled off on a lot of the right wing, and they're being kind of revealed as crazy fascists. Like I don't think most Americans really agree with kidnapping little Latina cleaning workers off the street and putting them in an ICE detention center and then sending them to El Salvador. I don't think most Americans agree with that. People might have nuanced views on immigration, but I think most people aren't down with that. And so this is a very kind of mask off moment for how a lot of the right wing in America feel, and I think that this is going to really I think this is really going to damage the reputation of the right wing. It might look cool now because they get a few podcasters to interview Trump, but I think this is going to be a really damaging moment for right wingers, and so I think there is going to be like a left kind of turn in the next 4 to 8 years after this, and
so considering like the context, the dark context of politics, the authoritarianism that is creeping, and that big beautiful bill that has given $1.3 trillion tax break to the super rich people and all that, has really made a lot of people in the United States unhappy. Even his supporter or the people who voted for him, they I don't think is going to. I think there might be a showdown for Trump in the next election.
I worry. I worry that what we're seeing here is a war among the elite for the soul of America. I worry that among the rich people with cigars who sit in the back room talking with one another, there's one half of the room that feels that America is expendable, and kind of they just want to, like a private equity company, sell off the parts of America and let it burn. And then there's another side of the room that really loves America and loves what it represents, loves the fact that it can be a leader, loves the fact that it can, do something different and make a difference in the world, that they actually love USAID, they actually love the America being, for all of its warts, actually being a leader on civil rights and human rights, LGBT rights all around the world. And I worry that what we're seeing now, like in politics, is kind of like a shadow, like a platonic shadow of like war among the elites for what America means. And I very much am on the side of the table that feels that America can be a force for good in the world, and I feel that Zoran is also on that same side of the table. I do not know which side of the table is going to win.
So right now, what I think is to change American politics, I think most important function or most important duty of different organizations across the country and thinkers, visible people, a member of civil society, or Muslim organizations like CARE, Impact. There are Christian organizations, there are Jewish organizations who are fighting for civil rights, who are fighting for human rights and good governance and all that. This is a very good opportunity that the star or the earthquake, you may say, if I may say, that has Mamdani has created, to take advantage of that, to then groom young generation people, politicians, motivate them, raise fund for them, and send it to Washington. I mean, may make, make them, help them to win and come to Washington to change politics in the United States. I think this is a very important, critical time that we are passing right now. On the one hand, the politics is degraded, the politics is dysfunctional, and a lot of people across the country are unhappy. Public discontent is very high, and there are betrayal, politicians betrayal for last 2, 3, even 4 decades, and that people have lost trust and confidence in politics. All these things actually has brought to a situation where there could be a fervor of change, a paradigm shift. And America, as I know, as as I studied history and all that, that it is a self-correcting nation for a long time. I don't know what is the situation exactly right now, because elites are so much in power and they are in the driving seat, and the elites are extremely powerful elites than they were a decade ago, 2 decades ago. Their techniques, their alliances, and they are becoming almost invincible. But I am, and this nation, nevertheless, this nation is a self-correcting nation, and it self-analytical, and it has, when the situation gets so bad, and there are several examples I can give you, it bounced back. I mean, after the Vietnam time.
America's done a lot of horrible stuff in its history, but I do feel like when you hit a home run, you can't hit a home run as good as you could in America. I mean, like, for Zoran to just penetrate all of that Wall Street crap and go right to the front of the mayoral race, that's a God bless America moment. It would be much harder to do that in Westminster in the UK. And I mean, good luck doing that in half of the high income African nations or in Eastern Europe. So you can hit a pretty big home run in America, and when America is a force for good, it's the captain leading the ship. So
what I'm saying is that these organizations across the board, don't you think that their priority should be to now seek the bright and the best people, dedicated people in the society, and help them, fund them, and groom them, and in campaign for them in the 2026 midterm election, and that kind of, and beyond, and after that? Don't you think this is a good time?
Yeah, I think now is an important time. It's an inflection point for America. There's
I think I'm very upbeat.
yeah.
I'm very upbeat, very optimistic.
Yeah, I
mean,
mean, you look at some of these moments like Mike Johnson shutting down the House of Representatives because of a vote on the Epstein stuff. You look at the podcasters interviewing Benjamin Netanyahu and then mid-interview saying like, "Look, we made a mistake." Like you see some stuff like this, and you realize that there's some serious backtracking on some of the bad stuff that America did over the last few decades. Yeah, this is a very interesting time in American history.
I think we should really all encourage each other and motivate each other and try to take advantage of this time. And on one side, it is the rotten politics and mass discontent. Other side, a leadership is reminding us that by staying on the side of the people, working for the working class and disadvantaged people, and not accepting money from, and actually challenging the big money and not accepting their money. Because if Zoran wants to receive millions of dollars by compromising his principles, he can do that today, and he will win in the election. But he is deliberately making it difficult, saying and indicating that if he comes to power, he's going to tax the corporation. If he comes to power, he's not going to go to Israel to please the pro-Israeli groups and AIPAC. And he's openly saying even before coming to power. So I think that is a plus point. It's my humble opinion.
Well, what I really liked about, watching Zoran on TV is like when he was talking about, for instance, funding buses, he clearly described how he would do something in a way that, yes, did take a little bit more money out of rich people's pocketbooks, but which seemed like a reasonable compromise, which everybody could get on board with. I think in order to save the soul of America and and to prevent it from falling into chaos. No, hold on. Let me finish. I think in order to prevent America from drowning into chaos, I think it's really important that we come up with, I don't want to say compromises, but come up with things that bring everybody together. I know that there was an interview with Kshama Sawant from Seattle where she was saying like, you shouldn't represent all of your constituents. You're representing working people, and I see where she's coming from, but like I think in order to really keep a polarized country together, I think it's really important to kind of to sell progressive values in a way that is happy and a way that is at least somewhat conciliatory and that makes people feel good. And one thing about Zoran doing it is it was very clear he was doing it in a way that where he wasn't trying to stick it to everyone. He wasn't trying to stick it to the bad guys. He was trying to do it in a reconciliatory kind of way. And yeah, and it worked, and he won by doing that. So I think it's very important that the progressive movement try to really stay as positive as it can, because it looks like being positive is kind of good for PR and it's good for the movement.
I am very interested in motivating the young generation Americans to come forward and be serious in participating in elections and all that, because the American public, I think, is a catalyst of change in the world. If there is good governance in America, if there are good leaders in Washington, D.C., then their policies changes the entire influence the entire world. And we have seen that during the leadership of President Woodrow Wilson and then President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. They actually inspired countless people around the world to fight against for their freedom, to fight against their respective colonial ruler, and 36 countries became independent during the post Second World War period. So, and about FDR, one thing I see a resemblance between FDR and Mamdani is that FDR's speech in 1936 in Madison Square Garden was a declaration of a war against the elites, predatory elites, whom he blamed for bringing the country to the state of worse depression. He blamed them for the 1929 stock market crash, for their reckless behaviors and capitalism or predatory capitalism. And he was saying that I'm ready to fight you.
Yeah,
so
it's
after
very
that,
sad
but let me finish that. But 1936 October, he delivered their speech. In November election, he got landslide victory. So what I'm saying is that American people likes that a person coming up, even a new politician. At that time, FDR was a new politician. He never was a contender for the president position. And he was challenging formidable forces like that. He got landslide. And my feeling is that Mamdani is saying similar things to the predatory elites today. And American people still can, they are open-minded, they are very liberal in general, their core national values, I think, all come together to support and see that a person who is courageous enough to do this, that that person might deliver what he is promising during the campaign. This is my feeling.
Well, what's the joke with Americans is like they only speak one language. They'll laugh about the food, but then business growth will be 10%. Like so like I mean there's a lot of potential in America. And I mean that's not just something that we would say. Like I mean even people on the other side of the fence like Elon Musk always talk about how, you know, America is the greatest country in the world. And I don't know if I really like phrases like the greatest country in the world, but one thing is that America has a lot of potential. I mean, if you actually read all 500 pages, the 500 dull pages of Obama's autobiography, he would talk about when he was at, you know, UN meetings for many issues related to, you know, civil rights or minority rights. If America didn't take the lead on something, a lot of the Europeans would sit on their hands about it, you know, and so America is kind of an established force for good, and it is kind of one of the tastemakers in world affairs, you know,
Yeah.
and we're hoping that it stays like that. I mean, you know, deciding that you're going to suddenly cut the entire budget for USAID, I work in international health. That's you know, for anybody who knows anything about this, that's a horrible thing to do. You know, we're not, you know, the welfare daddy warbucks for the rest of the world. You know, we're kind of the public policy planners for, you know, maternal and reproductive health efforts, for vaccine distribution, you know, and to just suddenly like destroy all that infrastructure, just, you know, own the libs on Twitter, it's pretty messed up, you know, and it really damages America's reputation worldwide, you know, and if guys like Zoran can help to kind of fix that stuff, to you know, to fix the the damaging cracks that Trump made in America's reputation worldwide. If Zoran can help to patch that stuff up, that would be amazing.
Do you think that his strategies, I would like to talk about some of his strategies that I picked up from different speeches and his plans, and from the discussions that he has been conducting for last few months, is that one is that he, if he wins, he says that he's going to have a decision making, a broad decision making process where he would be very inclusive. He would be bringing experts from the previous administrations. He would be bringing experts from oppositions who are efficient, who can deliver. He doesn't really mind that they don't support him or didn't support him, but he wants to have this kind of coalition, kind of like, you know, and then, but he said that finally the mayor is responsible, but my team is going to be a very inclusive team, a decision-making team. So that is
Well,
one
I mean,
strategy.
yeah,
And another,
I mean, talking about stuff that, you know, Zohran will do locally, I mean, that's cool and stuff. That's more of a New York thing, but yeah, but you do make a good point that um, there are ways to bring both the liberal and the conservative sides of the table together in America. I mean, there are some bills in Washington where you look and you'll see like Ro Khanna and Matt Gaetz suddenly voting together on something. You'll look at Marjorie Taylor Greene's vote to defund the Israeli military, and you'll be like, wow, I didn't expect that, you know. And I don't think these people are always just doing it for political kicks either. I mean, I think some of these people really mean what they say. I mean, sometimes I read some of the stuff that Thomas Massey does, and you know, I'll feel like there are bridges that can be built there. And I think some of the best politicians in America, you know, Ro Khanna, some of the squad, they know that, and they're trying to build bridges together. But the hard part though is there is so much money in politics nowadays that guys like
right.
Zoran, people that come after Zoran, young people running, we really have to find creative ways to break through that giant money barrier that's required to be a successful politician. And we have to find
So
ways to chip away at that.
so then his victory in November is crucial for bringing about a paradigm shift in the United States.
Well,
So
like I
this
said,
is,
I think he probably will win, God willing. But the real question is, whether or not other people will win afterwards, and
but
where
if even if he doesn't win, I think maybe is it possible that it will discourage all other possibilities, or not
no,
that
no, no,
that
no,
that
he already won. He already won. What's that thing that Tupac Shakur said? He's like, well, like, do you care that you lost the Grammy? And he's like, no, I just sold 6 million records. Like, so, so he's already won the battle. But what we needs to be done though is we got to invent little Zohrans of
and
that work elsewhere in the country.
yeah, I think that he could be a catalyst of change, even if he is defeated this November. He may come back next time or next time after that, but I think he's gonna keep on. He's a young guy. I mean, 33-year-old, so he has a long way to go, and in his course, yeah, I believe that if he can stick to what he's eh, like Norman Finkelstein has advised him to stay the course
He's
and
one of
not give
his
in
formal
and not
advisors.
compromise.
The world
Not
really has changed. If Norman Finkelstein is one of your official advisors on campus, the
No,
world's changed.
but look at Robert Reich. He was the labor secretary under Clinton. He is saying similarly. He's saying the same thing. He endorsed him from the beginning. He's saying his style, his ideas, his platform, progressive platforms, all are positive, and he should stick to it. There are a lot of people who are endorsing that, and including myself.
Yeah, no, and you're right. And like people will make fun of these progressive leaders, but they're like people like Finkelstein, Robert Wright. I mean, they're smart people who have a lot of good ideas, who should be
Mm.
given a leadership position at the table and not get written off like Noam Chomsky was for 30 years with his New York Times editorials just getting rejected. Why can't these people be advisors with their ear, to the president or the senator? You make a very good point. Like they have some fantastic ideas that should be entertained, and
Mm.
and we're looking at the crest of a wave nowadays when finally they're getting their flowers and they're getting their due.
Well, my heart is um, um, for supporting and uh, actually doing everything that is possible, talking, discussing, to encourage young generation Americans, because I think the future of the world is going to be highly influenced by the leadership of the United States. And the leadership of the United States is will be decided, and if it is decided by the dedicated, bright people, I think that it is a win-win situation. Not only America, who is going to be benefiting enormously for good governance and social justice and all that, and and huge number of people having a better life, a normal life with hopes for themselves and for their children, but also that hope will spread out in the world. I believe in that because I have seen that whenever there is good leadership in Washington, even the Cold War was ended by America's initiative, though the U-turn was made because the American public came to the street and demanded Washington to change, and Washington changed. And so that kind of situation still exists. If American people are united, they are determined to stay the course, to change it, they can change it. And I believe in that. That is the reason I think American people are the most important catalyst of change in the world today.
And yeah,
And
you
with
make,
that
and you make a
thought,
good,
I
and you
would
make a
like
good,
to.
and you make a good point. Like everybody says that, oh, Americans are not all that educated. Oh, and the school districts nowadays are terrible. People just use Chat GPT to write everything, and you wonder like if any of that is really all that true. When you poll Americans on what they think about single-payer healthcare, or the funding of the U.S. military-industrial complex, or climate change, you find that people actually have much more rational views than what the media will tell you about Americans being stupid or whatever. Yeah, Americans are not necessarily all that stupid. They might be hustling, they might be working hard with two jobs, so they don't have time to pontificate on a blog every time that they come home like us. But yeah, Americans are not necessarily that dumb, and they will vote for people like Zoran, regardless of whether people tell you that they're too controversial or too much of a
But the
socialist.
interesting, Matthew, interesting thing is that, we see that the elites are extremely powerful today, and they are manipulative. They have bigger alliances. They are almost invincible and all that. But if you go back to the turn of the 20th century, this is a similar situation existed. And Standard Oil, remember that it knocked out all the big companies and became a mega conglomerate. And then it was with I think it was Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt, who broke it down to 38 different countries by antitrust laws and all that. But the America has changed for better at that time. And then look at again the Cold War. During the Cold War, situation was very bad. And after the Cold War changed, because of the huge number of American people came to the street, and it is a self-correction process that I have seen in history over and over again. That gives me the confidence, even watching from outside, that if American people look back to the past and derive the inspiration from the Declaration of Independence and all the struggles that took place for 200 years, 200 plus years, to up and down, but upward trend. My feeling is that American people can do it again, and I think we need good leaders like Zoran Mamdani, and we should encourage like that. So with that good note, I would like to close the discussion today, and thank you very much for coming and participating in the discussion. Thank you.
Thanks again for your time. Bye.